Coming up on Mountain News at 5:30, a disturbing case of animal cruelty after puppies were found dead in Richmond. Plus, Hollywood writers may have a deal to end their nearly 5-month-long strike.
We have another quiet night on the way tonight. The forecast will soon turn active. I'll have the latest. Mountain News at 5:30 is on the air.
Dedicated to Southern and Eastern Kentucky, this is WYMT Mountain News at 5:30.
Good evening, I'm Steve Hensley. An animal cruelty case is under investigation in Richmond. It's a disturbing one. Puppies were found dead inside a container. Officers are asking for the community's help. Julia Sandor spoke to Richmond police who are leading the investigation.
Kelly Alley sees plenty of foot traffic on a daily basis, but the path stood quiet Monday afternoon. The cracks in the pavement revealing little about what took place on the neighborhood path.
This is the first that I can remember where we've located a plastic container or bin with 6 puppies inside it.
Chief Rodney Richardson says Richmond police were called to the area to look at a container. Inside the container, Chief Richardson says, is where they found 6 puppies, all of them dead.
We as a society have to, be responsible for those sort of things. If we get a pet, we need to make sure that that's what we want to do. But we also need to take care of them, just like we do our children. It's the same thing.
Chief Richardson says it's always sad to investigate animal cruelty cases, especially when these animals were dealt a bad hand in a situation that could have been prevented.
There's plenty of social media stuff out there of groups that rehome pets. And you could check with those groups, check with Humane Society, check with vets' offices, check with our local animal shelter just to see if they know of any place that they could take the puppies, or there might be somebody looking for a dog.
Chief Richardson says that their officers are passionate about this case, and if anybody has any more information or details about this situation, to reach out to the Richmond Police Department. In Richmond, Julia Sandor, WKYT.
Julia, thank you. And again, if you have any information, call Richmond Police.
Well, the first forecast tonight looking at a few clouds across parts of the region. We're going to be watching that for the next few hours, but again, not much in the way of rain chance. We had a few showers earlier up along I-64 into central Kentucky. Maybe a little bit of cloud cover over the eastern counties. That's why a little bit cooler over that way. Current conditions, well, the hazard cameras went out on us, but we can go ahead and show you those current conditions. You see how much warmer it is in the western counties? 80 Manchester, 80 London, 81 in Somerset. But look back toward Pikeville, 67 out that way this hour, 66 Grundy, 68 Clintwood. There's the hazard camera just as we changed it over to it. So again, as we head through the evening hours, we're expecting some cooler temperatures to start to drift in down to about 61 by 3 in the morning. Mix of partly cloudy skies, maybe a little bit of mostly cloudy skies there at times, and we'll continue to see those temperatures drop. But for now, we are staying dry. That will not be the case for too much longer. Steve?
All right, Brandon, thank you. The work stoppage may soon be over for Hollywood writers. Their union reached a tentative deal with the Alliance of Motion Picture and Television Producers. However, the ink is not dry just yet. CBS's Elise Preston has more from Los Angeles.
Hollywood writers walked the picket lines for nearly 5 months before a breakthrough was announced late Sunday. In a joint statement, the WGA and the Alliance of Motion Picture and Television Producers said they've reached a tentative agreement for a new 3-year contract.
Yet,
Elaine Lowe has been following the strike for the Ankler.
I went out and covered some of the festivities last night. Writers were celebrating at bars all across LA, on the west side, up in North Hollywood, and they are both relieved and elated about this.
While details of the potential deal are still under wraps, writers were seeking better pay, increased staffing minimums, and protections against artificial intelligence.
I believe that the deal that we're working on right now is incredibly important for the longevity of not just the Writers Guild, but the entire entertainment industry.
Picketing is now suspended, but the Guild warned its 11,000 striking writers not to return to work until the ink on this deal is dry. Leadership votes are set for Tuesday if the language is settled.
We have worked hard, the beat of our feet on the streets, and I think it's really set the tone for other workers in America and other unions.
That includes 160,000 member sister union SAG-AFTRA. Talks between striking actors and the studios have stalled.
So I actually think these next negotiations could be very complex. They may be burnished and given a boost, though, by having an archetype in the WGA contract that could feasibly speed things up.
Perhaps not fast enough, as economic losses from the twin strikes are estimated around $5 billion. Elise Preston, CBS News, Los Angeles.
Late night talk shows could return by early next month. The man who shot and killed 23 people at a Walmart in El Paso, Texas, has agreed to pay millions of dollars in restitution. Court filings claim Patrick Crusius will pay more than $5.5 million to claimants in the federal case. The document identifying the claimants was sealed. Crusius pleaded guilty to 90 federal charges, including hate crimes, earlier this year. He has since been sentenced to 90 consecutive life sentences. The government is set to run out of money and shut down at midnight Saturday unless Congress comes up with a way to pass a spending bill to keep it operating. But fighting among House Republicans is making it look more and more likely that at least a partial shutdown is going to happen. CBS's Skylar Henry reports from Capitol Hill.
House Speaker Kevin McCarthy sounded frustrated with some of his colleagues who were pushing towards a government shutdown.
Why would they want to stop paying the troops or stop paying the border agents or the Coast Guard? I don't understand how that makes you stronger. I don't understand what point you're trying to make.
But hardline conservative House members say they won't vote for any spending bill, long-term or short-term, without massive spending cuts.
Now, the folks that want to keep their word to their constituents, we're the bad guys. And all we want to do is have responsible government, ma'am. You cannot keep spending, you can't keep spending $7 trillion when you're only taking in $5 trillion.
McCarthy says the House will move forward Tuesday on 4 of the 12 spending bills needed to keep the government running.
Complicating the negotiations, GOP presidential candidates out on the campaign trail weighing in on the fight.
Former President Trump is campaigning in South Carolina. He posted on social media that he thinks the public will blame President Biden if there is a shutdown. So he's advising Republicans, unless you get everything, shut it down.
Funding the government is one of the most basic fundamental responsibilities of Congress. And if Republicans in the House don't start doing their job, we should stop electing them.
The White House says politics could harm millions of Americans who will be impacted by a government shutdown. Skylar Henry, CBS News, Capitol Hill.
The White House added Republicans agreed to a budget deal in the spring and that now House Republicans are trying to renegotiate the deal. More than half of American workers surveyed say their salary is just not enough to cover the cost of living. A Bank of America survey reveals 67% of employees say the cost of living is outpacing growth in their salary and wages. 80% of those ages 35 to 44 feel stressed out about the money, with the survey finding women are more worried than men. The Biden administration has announced more than $1 billion in funding for rail infrastructure safety. It will go toward 70 projects in 35 states. This comes after a series of high-profile rail accidents, including February's toxic derailment in East Palestine, Ohio. None of that funding is going to that community. An administration official said that's because there were no grant applications from the town. But Ohio is getting more than $26 million. The National Institute of Health says there are about 400,000 burn victims each year in the U.S. For a group of teenage survivors, they are finding hope in community. Kennedy Thacker came from Iowa to Washington to be part of the International Association of Firefighters Burn Camp. She's one of 36 campers in this year's group.
We are all so supportive of each other. We don't know each other, but it almost feels like we always have in a way. It's just we're connected. And we all know that we have something in common, and that makes us all feel good.
Organizer Tom Flam says all costs are covered by the AIFF, making the experience free for the kids. Coming up on Mountain News at 5:30, we'll have our Day in History segment and Watching Your Wallet report.
And we're tracking some rain and storm chances as we head deeper into this week, and some of those could be on the stronger side. I'll have the latest in just a few minutes.